In the beginning, there was...
The Bitchspot Report. Welcome to the Bitchspot Report, the conservative atheist podcast that's not afraid to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Every week, your hosts, Cephas and Mike, will take on the latest religious and political news and examine the world around us from a distinctly conservative and skeptical perspective. Join us now for this episode of the Bitchspot Report. Welcome once again to the Bitchspot Report podcast, the only conservative atheist podcast out there, brought to you by two amazingly conservative atheists. Imagine that. This week, a Christian violates the rules and thinks she's being discriminated against when she's fired. The Libertarians point out the horrible inequity in Illinois' politics. A Russian Orthodox priest doesn't own a mirror. A GOP holy roller wants abstinence only, but not for his pregnant, unmarried daughter. Plus, we play off that last story and talk about how conservatives look at sex education in American schools. All that and more in the next 90 minutes, so stay tuned. How's it going?
Pretty good. It's been a weird week since we last talked. I mean, I don't know. I think the stupidity seems to have risen a few notches. I don't know. I don't buy into the full moon crap or stuff like that, but there's something going on that definitely there's crazy people loose.
Oh yeah, there's always crazy people loose. What's really going on?
I don't know. It's just like, it is kind of weird. I was driving home last weekend and I get into Illinois. I get up to the toll booth and traffic's backed up and it's not moving. I'm like, okay, there's an accident. I'm trying to listen to the radio. Nothing about an accident or anything major, but I'm sitting there for hours. I mean, I think I sat 2 hours in this traffic jam, and it's because it looked like a SUV plowed into a car. The car was crushed. The SUV flipped. Someone died. When I looked up the story, there was a death involved. So the state police has to close up the road and do their investigation. And there's these jerks. I mean, they were going off into the shoulder and they're trying to weave in and out. And on top of it, the state police started turning traffic around in front of us. So the eastbound lanes were being turned back onto the westbound lanes because this was really close to Interstate 57. I mean, they couldn't turn them around there, type of thing. So they were bringing everybody through and then making the U-turn there. So they were stopping traffic to get semis through and it was just insane. And I was starting to lose it. And once I got on the road, I started going and, there's this guy who he went by me on the shoulder. I mean, I was in kind of the middle lane, so I was couldn't pull out and block the guy, but he goes by. But next thing you know, I'm blowing past him. I mean, I'm doing about 10 miles over the speed limit. He's driving the speed limit. It's like, motherfucker,
Yeah.
You broke the law driving on the shoulder. I don't know why because there were cops all over the place, why they weren't stopping you and giving you a ticket, for driving on the shoulder. And, then you had to get ahead of everybody, then you drive under the speed limit. It's just this insanity, I don't know, the logic. I wish I understood the logic. I think that's what's bothering you the most. Why do you have to do stuff like that? Why do you have to drive 10 miles under the speed limit? There's nobody on the road. I mean, there was nothing. There was nobody on the road. And they insist on driving 10 miles under the speed limit. No wonder there's accidents like that, and I'm trying to understand the logic, and there isn't any. That's what's frustrating me,
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's been a lot of stupid drivers this week. I mean, there's this one place where it's a one-way street, and there's always somebody going the wrong way down this one-way street. You get down to the other end, it's big sign, do not enter, and they just go right on through. They don't give a fuck. They're going to do what they want to do. Fuck you people. What is wrong with you idiots? The laws exist for a reason.
I mean, the only thing that was going through my mind is, you see a speed limit sign. I mean, it's well posted. I mean, there's signs for, exit here, this type of stuff. And here in Michigan, apparently it is okay to cut across 3 lanes to get onto your exit. But there's signs all over the place, and I can understand, being maybe out of state, unfamiliar territory. Yeah, you might pull that off, but these are people with, Michigan license plates. It's always happens, and it's usually in front of me for some reason. And the one thing goes through my mind is, from Pulp Fiction, English, motherfucker, do you speak it? You know?
Well, of course they don't. Come on.
You know, it's like, it just amazes me, you know.
Yeah, I know. There's just too many stupid people out there. Or people who will they're waiting for somebody and they will just, literally, they will park their car in the middle of the street. They won't pull over to the side. In the lane, they will stop their car and wait for somebody to come over and get in the car. And back up fucking people for blocks. It's like, you asshole. Fuck you. I mean, it's where you need a bag limit for stupid people, you know?
Right.
You're just too stupid to live. I'm gonna shoot you and put you out of everybody else's misery.
Yeah.
I get so tired of that.
Yeah. I guess a popular thing to do at the Detroit airport is to bring a loaded gun in your carry-on. They've already busted like 14 people this year. I'm trying to understand. Maybe you forget, but you know, you pack your bags. At some point you throw the gun in there. I mean, wouldn't you know that the gun is there? There was a guy trying to bring a gun through, the TSA checkpoint. They caught him and, busted him. And, apparently he won't go to jail, but he can get civil fined up to $55,000, something like that. I mean, that's the penalties or whatever. And this keeps happening. And I'm like, you know, if you're a gun owner and you're a responsible gun owner, you would know where that gun is. You just don't toss it into your carry-on bag or in your briefcase or whatever. Put it in your computer case. I would think you would be a little bit more cautious about it, and especially 10 years after 9/11 and all this shit came down anyhow. It should be pretty obvious you don't bring a gun on carry-on. You could put it in your checked bags. I don't know there's some procedures you gotta do, and you gotta have it in a lockbox with no ammo in it. You know, you can take a gun onto an airplane. You just can't have it on your carry-on. I don't understand why do people do this?
Because they're stupid.
And that's gotta be it. I mean, you know, cause that's the logic says, and that's always saying, you know, you're punishing the honest and the responsible gun owners because of stuff that happens. And this is just one airport in half a year. 14 guns. You know, it's like there's something wrong with your argument. And like I said, and it just, the logic defies me, you know, so, and that's.
Yeah, well, I think there's a real easy way to solve that though, without having to go for all these civil fines and all that stuff, is if you're caught trying to take a gun onto a plane, you're banned from flying any airline for 10 years. Fuck it, you've just written off any reason to go to any airport because you're on the blacklist for 10 years.
Yeah.
So, screw you. We're not gonna fine you, we're not gonna do anything, but we're just gonna give you consequences for your actions. So, well, I hope you like to drive or ride the bus, cause you ain't getting on a plane again, anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
These people would stop doing that if they actually had some consequences.
True. I mean, I can understand, you know, you have a bag that you take to the gun range, you keep the gun in there normally, and you decide, hey, I gotta catch a flight. You throw a bunch of stuff in a carry-on, maybe if you're rushed, but you know, that may be one or two times, you know, at the most, but this is, you know, we're talking 14, and this is just this year in the first 6 months. You know, there's something bigger here, but you know.
Well, you've got the people who think that they have a right to take their gun anywhere they damn well please, fuck the law, and fuck the regulations. But guess what, guy? When you bought that ticket, on that ticket someplace, in the small print says, you ain't bringing a gun, and you agreed to it.
Yeah.
Your word means nothing, essentially. You've promised that you're not bringing a gun by buying that ticket.
Yeah.
Well, fuck you then. You got what you deserved.
Yeah.
Get off the damn planes for a decade. Fuck you.
Yeah. And you know, it probably wouldn't even be a big deal, but apparently now Illinois has a concealed carry, and I'm seeing all these neat little signs, no guns in the building. I mean, it's kind of a given. Most of the refineries and the plants I worked in, there's a no gun policy. There's even a no knife, or, you know, you're limited to 3 inches, sometimes 3.5 inch blade, tops, you know, any type of weapons. They don't even want it on the property. So if you're going to go to work and then run over to the gun range afterwards, you can't even put the gun in your trunk on property.
Well, if they catch you.
If they catch you, of course, but technically, you know, that's the rule, and you can lose your job. You know,
oh, sure.
There is a consequence to it. And, you know, I know a lot of guys who do shoot, and they follow those rules. So it's, you know, it's not a big deal, even on top of it. Now that I'm at the office I work at, you gotta leave your gun at home or leave the gun in your car or whatever it is. But, you know, I don't know. It's just weird. The changes. I'm not, I'm all for change, but, it is kind of weird to have to say, okay, now I gotta worry about going into my office because someone may be carrying a gun. Fortunately, they can't have a gun in our office, so I feel kind of okay, but, there's gonna be the one nut who, he insists that, he has the right to carry it wherever he wants, and, I don't want to be there when he loses his marbles.
Well, then he loses his job and he obviously can't carry it there because he doesn't work there anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I'm really kind of getting sick and tired of the people who think that they've got to carry a gun every place they go because apparently they're going to get attacked by pigeons or something, where they have to have some kind of self-defense or some kind of armament that they can fend off attackers. Maybe there's just imaginary magical ninjas that are going to come out of the woodwork and jump their ass. I don't know really what's going on through their head, but these people have got to understand that, and we'll go into this more in a little bit with one of the stories, that there are things that your employers can insist that you do or not do while you're on their property and or while you're on their time. And if you don't like that, fuck you. Don't have that job. Go someplace else. Go someplace and work for a gun nut just like you who, has AK-47s on the walls and, machine gun nests in the middle of the office, because that's really what you need to do. You don't have the right to carry a gun wherever the fuck you go. There's no conceivable constitutional right that says you get to do whatever the fuck you want to do on somebody else's property. Just doesn't happen. Sorry.
Yeah.
Doesn't fly that way.
So, but yeah, it's just been all these weird little, I don't know, it kind of teased me off. And actually when I talk about the Libertarians, it's more of that too. So,
well, anyway, this is something that just happened today and I'm still kind of pissed off about it. So I wanted to say something briefly. And I wrote this really long article that's going to go up next Tuesday. So, I don't want to go into too much detail, but I am sick and fucking tired of the stupid liberals who can't understand the difference between equal opportunity and equal outcome. And we've talked about that on the podcast before. Specifically in this case, they've got this really weird need to place blame for everything that happens on somebody. They can't just say, well, something happened and, let's deal with it. They need to blame somebody for things happening. There was an article in the Washington Post not that long ago where they were claiming atheism has a racism problem. And, we've talked about this before, where atheism has a racism problem and a sexism problem and all this stuff because the majority of people who are active or who are vocal, who are big, well-known people in the atheist quote-unquote movement happen to be white, straight guys. And they hate that.
Yeah.
And it's really, really ridiculous. They can't actually produce any evidence that any atheist organization out there is denying blacks or gays or women part in their organization. They can't produce any evidence that there's any racism or sexism actually going on. They're just going, well, the majority of people happen to be white males, therefore it must be racist. And I went back and I pointed out, well, there's actually black atheist groups out there that actually do say we are primarily for black people, and they don't call those people racist. Why? Because they're not rich white guys. I get so sick and tired of this shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the argument, you can't be a racist if you're black. You can't be a sexist if you're a woman. And it always is the white male, Anglo-Saxon, whatever, that's the patriarchy.
But I'm really, really sick and tired of that stupid patriarchy shit. There is no goddamn patriarchy. There just isn't. You got nothing, guys. You're out there going, oh, well, all these rich white men, they're running the world like the fucking Illuminati. And that's not the way this goddamn works. I'm sorry. There is no patriarchy. There is no horrible male-dominated society that's out there making women slaves and rape culture and all this other bullshit. It's all imaginary. You people have just made this crap up. It's time you grow up and get over it.
And it's like, you know what? Well, one, you're not making friends. You're really not, because now you're pissing off. I mean, maybe we are. I don't know. I don't think we're in the majority anymore.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
We still are.
I went through and I looked up all this stuff. We're not really in the major majority, but whites are about 57% of the U.S. Men are about 107%, or not 107%, but we're more than 50% by gender. Straight, we're definitely the majority. Transsexual, well, non-transsexual, we're definitely the majority. So the most common person, if you're going to put all these different things together, is a straight white male cisgender person. And they're going, well, it's horrible because these are the majority. Well, guess what? We're the majority. Fuck you.
It's always that you paint with the broad stroke. You know, if you're white, you're racist. If you're black, you're not. You know, if you're a male, you're sexist. If you're a female, you're not. You know, and it's always these broad strokes. You know, I'm sorry, but you know, when you dig in and you start researching and you start looking at the various, you know, who's who, I mean, quite frankly, I mean, you know, white males, I mean, personally, I think are probably more anti-racist. They're anti-sexist. You know, we're probably the biggest allies for those who are minorities, whatever you want to choose. And, it's only those nutcases, you know, the Bachmans and the Robertsons and the Klingenschmidts and all that who, you know, we're not like those people. This is the lunatic fringe, you know, in whitedom, I guess.
Yeah, but you have the same damn thing when you look at like Atheism Plus and those fucktards, the liberals who, let's be honest, the vast majority of those people are white. Probably the majority are male. Most of them are straight and they're not transgendered. And they're sitting around going, we are the demographic that's fucking everything up. Dudes, look in the fucking mirror. Yeah. Jesus, you people are so goddamn stupid.
Stupid is giving them credit. I don't know what term to call them. Like they loathe everything. Everything's bad. There's nothing good in this world, you know. See, even being somewhat pessimistic is a lot more optimistic than these people. I mean, there is some good out there, and there's good that can happen. These people don't see that until every white man is gone. You know, it's like the world can't be good. These are just social justice warriors. I mean,
well, of course they are. But these are all a bunch of self-loathing assholes. They hate themselves. That's the thing. Everything that they describe that they hate is them.
Yeah.
Look in the goddamn mirror. It's you people. You hate yourself. And you're telling everybody what a fucking horrible person you are. And then you're running around going, oh, well, we're going to try to make things better. No, you're not. You're not making anything better. You're fucking pathetic.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, I wrote about this in length and Tuesday. Go read it. I'm just pissed at these people who are just so utterly blinded to their own stupidity. And they act just like fucking Christians. They act like the religious. They have the same view. You know, it's all emotional pap and nonsense that, you know, we don't care if what we believe is real or if it's defensible or if we have any evidence for it. As long as it makes us feel good, that's all that matters. So we're just gonna repeat the same stupid shit over and over, even if it's completely false and has no evidence to support it. We're just gonna keep saying it because it makes us feel good. Guys, you're just like the religious. You really are.
Yeah. They hate themselves. If you listen to me over these past, how many shows I've done already?
A lot.
A lot, you know, cause you know that I see the world in a way that, when I talk about why I'm an atheist, you know, I know that there's no God because I'm very comfortable with a world that is totally random. I mean, I'm very comfortable with the idea that those two molecules came together at the right moment to pull two more molecules together, and eventually, you know, the enzymes and the proteins come together, and, you know, we don't know how life came together, but I'm very cool with the idea of everything being so random. And, that seems to be opposite of, you know, what, people who believe in God. They want God to have created everything. I don't see these people when they argue about, white males are bad and, you know, they pull this social justice stuff. I don't see that as standing up for a cause. I see that as complaining about something that they don't like. If they were getting out there and, you know, I don't know, maybe they do, but, you know, maybe they're out there protesting. Maybe they're out there doing this. But you know what? To be honest, I think that these are overweight. They live in Ma's basement and they want to type vitriol through their keyboard out to the world, thinking that they're somehow, you know, being intellectually, honest and forthright and whatever, that they're virtuous, and thinking that they're being clever and they're being snarky and sarcastic and, whatever, that this makes them somehow vastly superior to people who are fighting for equal rights. I mean, the battle isn't over with, and there's people out there in the front lines fighting for equal rights. They're not out there doing that. They're sitting back there behind their keyboards, munching on Pop Pockets and typing away bullshit.
Yep. They're just a bunch of lazy assholes. And I didn't want to turn this into a giant atheism plus bitch session, to be really honest.
True.
But
I didn't either, but you know what? That's what it is. I mean, that's what we're dealing with. These are people who just have nothing better to do but to vent their spleens at stuff that they don't understand. Reading some of this stuff and stuff that's being talked about it, and I'm like, I'm so confused. And these social justice people who are out there writing away, and they're confused the situation's so bad, I don't even know what's right or wrong anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can't say anything more on that. How about we start doing some news?
Oh, but before we get to the news, there was one thing I wanted to bring up. A couple of weeks ago, we had Jim Goebel on the show, and tomorrow, as when this show actually airs, we're going to be on his show, The Side Project Live. It starts at 7 o'clock a.m. Pacific on Saturday, July 19th. For anybody who wants to listen live, I will go ahead and I'll put a note in the show notes, a link so people can do that. Otherwise, as soon as the show is actually up for people to listen to, I will make sure everybody knows where that is. So, anyway, on with the news. And now the news.
A local woman.
I absolutely loved my job.
Fired by a national bank. The problem?
I say have a blessed day all the time. All the time.
And now she's fighting back.
I can't back down from this.
Fox 19 investigates her questionable words.
That is my way of basically sharing the love of Jesus.
The repeated warnings. And now her controversial lawsuit. Whose side are you on?
Yes, it's that time again. That time when Christians whine about being oppressed, even though they haven't been. In Kentucky, a woman claims she's lost her job at a bank because she was telling her customers to have a blessed day. In fact, she did lose her job because of it. Her employers told her time and time again to knock it off, and she refused. Now she's saying that her religious rights have been violated, and she's gonna sue. Christians really are stupid, aren't they?
Well, they don't get it. They'll never get it. And, I don't know.
Hey, it's the social justice warriors all over again. Same shit we were just talking about.
Well, exactly. I mean, I read the story. I'm like, okay, yeah, she was told to cut it out. There had been complaints. She was told to, knock it off. She didn't. She got fired. I think it should be pretty clear. I'm hoping the bank did all the proper paperwork and, documented everything so that when they go into court, it's their word against hers. And of course, Kentucky, who knows what's going to happen to the courts, but still, it's, you gotta realize, there's a decorum, there's codes, there's, your company has codes, they have a dress code, they've got a conduct code, they got, all this stuff. When you work with a client, when, there's all these rules you should be following. And that's because the company wants to present a particular image, and if you don't want to follow that and you're not following it, it's bye-bye. I don't know if Blessed Day, could you really call it it does sound religious. Is it really that religious?
Well, she says it's religious. She says flat out that she uses it to express her Christian faith. And to be really honest, it doesn't make a difference. I think it's funny that a lawyer took a case which is completely ridiculous because the Constitution doesn't guarantee you have a right to speak out about your faith anywhere and to anyone in any situation. That only applies to the government. The government cannot restrict your speech or your religious expression. Your fucking employer can do it up one side and down the other. And any goddamn lawyer who took it probably got his fucking law degree out of a Cracker Jack box.
Yeah. Needless to say, they wanted her to stop. They let her go. Now she's turned it into a religious thing. It's going to be another one of these lessons like, you were told not to.
Yeah. Employers have every right to tell their employees what phrases they can and cannot use on the job, how they can dress, what they can do, what they can say, how they can act, whatever. And this chick, Polly Niece, she admits that she was reprimanded several times for violating company policy and pushing her religious beliefs on others. There was a point where she insulted somebody because she claims they took the Lord's name in vain, and then she tried to convert them to Christianity. You know, fuck, this bitch does deserve to be shown the street. She was probably let go a hell of a lot later than she deserved, and now she's out there going, I was upset with the fact that they were stifling me and not allowing me to act on my beliefs. Well, lady, if you want to act on your beliefs, open your own fucking business. If you're working on somebody else's dime, you don't get to do what you want to do. That's the agreement. That's how business works. You're agreeing to trade your labor for their money. And they can decide when your labor ain't worth their money anymore. And that's what they decided. These people are just so fucking stupid.
Yeah. There's not much more to say on it, but it's just that you got the clueless. I mean, it sounds like the bank did give her a lot of leeway. I mean, it sounds like 3 or 4 or 5 times. I mean, a lot of times a company may give you one warning and that's it type of deal. So she had a lot of leeway. I mean, 5 complaints, I think was in the article. She knew she overstepped the line.
Of course she knew. She even said she stopped for a couple of months and then said, well, what the hell? If they're going to fire her anyway, she might as well go back and piss them off some more. There's no secret here that she knew what she was doing. She was setting this up for a goddamn lawsuit. But, hey, what the hell? What do you expect from these fucks?
Like I said, I'm hoping the bank really documented this well because she doesn't have any leg to stand on.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter if it's religious or not. If this was a completely non-religious thing, they can still fire her for it. It doesn't make a difference. Her religious beliefs don't even play into this. She violated the rules. She agreed that she violated the rules because I'm sure they did document it, have her sign the write-ups or whatever it was. Her name's on it where she says, I understand what I did was wrong, and if you continue to do it, religious or not, fuck you, you're gone. She's got nothing. But this is the kind of shit the religious keep pulling because they think their religion is more important than everybody else. Well, they're wrong.
Yeah. But, the religious, they've proven time and time again, they have no clue.
Yeah, but they're not very bright. Speaking of not very bright, let's do your favorite story.
Yeah, this is actually, it's interesting, it's cool, and,
we kind of talked about it a little bit when Jim was on the show a couple of episodes ago.
Right. It was, Libertarians strive to beat ballot blocking to get on ballot. And this is a story from WUIS in Springfield, Illinois. The Libertarian Party of Illinois is running a candidate for governor and all the other statewide races, but the race could be over before it begins. Chad Grimm, the 33-year-old health club manager from Peoria and the Libertarian Party's nominee for Illinois governor, he has some unconventional views. I won't go into that. But the big story here is Grimm tops the 7-person slate of libertarians who say they've collectively turned in more than 43,000 signatures from Illinois voters, nearly double what they need to get on the November ballot. Now in Illinois, you need to have 25,000 valid signatures to get on a ballot if you're a third party. If you're a Republican or Democrat, you only need 5,000 signatures. And another rule is that you have to run a full slate. You can't just run a governor and lieutenant governor. You have to run a secretary of state. You have to run a comptroller. I don't know what all that has to run, but you have to run a full slate. But the Democrats and Republicans don't. The Republicans won't be running a candidate against Jesse White. Jesse White's a Democrat. He's he's been a very good, Secretary of State. Really, he's done a great job, so he's locked up. I mean, really, it's not worth the Republicans to run someone against Jesse White. The Republicans never possibly win, but the Libertarians have to run a candidate against Jesse White because they have to have a full slate. And right now, as we speak, they're in Springfield defending these signatures because instead of having 4 weeks to prepare, because the Republicans challenged the Libertarian ballot and the Democrats challenged the Green Party, and I forget the numbers that the Green Party had, but they were just over 25. There was the Constitution Party that got 17,000, so they're probably not going to make it. They'll be turned down for being on the ballot. But right now they're in Springfield this week defending those signatures against the Republicans, and basically they're doing it off of volunteers, and they're actually short people, so this may be a totally screwed up deal for them because they don't have enough people to defend the signatures, and the Republicans are even looking to, if they can knock one candidate off that slate, nobody can run. So this is really a big deal for the Libertarians, and I know we're critical of libertarianism. We're also critical of everyone else, but they do deserve a right to be on the ballot. This is one of those screwed up. Whoever had the bright idea of doing this it's just not right. Even though the Libertarians, I think, have only had like 10 or 15% of the vote tops in Illinois. I think the Greens are in the 5%. They're not really a threat to anybody, but you know what? I think the Libertarians scare the Republicans because they think they're stealing votes. No, you just don't have a candidate good enough to go up against these guys. You know, that's what's really going on. You know, if you could put a candidate up that was worth voting for, the Libertarians are not a problem. They'll never be a problem for you. But, this is totally a screwed up deal. And this is Illinois. This is just Illinois. And even on top of it, trying to find other stories. This is the only story I was able to find on this subject. Nobody else in Illinois is reporting on this. The story's being buried. Nobody knows. I've had a couple back and forths with Brian Lambrick. He's the chairman of the DuPage County Libertarians. This is a county just west of Chicago. And he's supposed to give me more information. It sounds like they're doing all right. They're just hanging on. But he was supposed to get me some more information as it comes up. So unfortunately, he didn't quite make it for the show. If it does show up, maybe later I'll mention it. But it sounds like they're doing all right, but it's still very shaky. But I guess the bottom line is that the Republicans and the Democrats are just as equal in this, are trying to stifle any type of third party, any type of voice that would even barely challenge their supremacy in Illinois. And this is really bullshit.
Of course it is, but this is just more evidence that we have an inherently broken political system run and paid for by the Democrats and the Republicans illegally. What they're doing is illegal, but the voters of Illinois and other states, because it does happen elsewhere too, but in this case, the voters of Illinois allowed them to get away with it. So you got nobody to blame except for the people going to the ballot boxes allowing this to happen. Nobody's overturning this. Nobody's stopping it. There's no outrage. It's up to the voters to say, holy shit, guys, we're not going to allow this to happen. Right. Are they doing it? Nope. They're not saying a word.
Right. The thing that bothers me, I never knew this happened, to be honest. I mean, I'm a voter in Illinois, and none of this was ever mentioned. What's pissing me off about this is I found only one article on this, and this is from public radio in Springfield, Illinois. Nowhere else is covering this. None of the big Chicago stations, not any of the big St. Louis stations.
Well, they're all bought and paid for by the Democrats and Republicans. Of course they're not.
Apparently, I mean, I'm talking to this guy from DuPage. Even the DuPage newspapers didn't have anything. This is what bugs me because I didn't know. No one said anything about this. This all happened on the floor of the Springfield, and this was nobody reported on it. Nobody made any mention of it. I mean, I imagine those who are big libertarians probably did, but the rest of Illinois didn't know about this. And those who probably would have been outraged could have gotten to their senators and their congressmen there in the state house and saying, no, stop this. This is bullshit. And that's what bugs me. I don't have time to sit and go through the agendas for what's going on in Springfield. I don't even know half the time when they're meeting. I don't have the time to sit there and go through the hundreds of laws that they're dealing with and the legalese. There was nobody raising the alarm.
Well, of course not. That's what happens when you have a media that is based around advertising, that's based around commercials, it's based around money. There was a point in time in this country where the media, it was their job to inform the public. That was what they existed for. Today, that media is gone. That media has been replaced by a bunch of people who are out there to make a buck and sell advertising, and they're never, ever, ever going to talk about things that are going to upset their advertisers. That's the issue. Nobody's going to tell you what's going on in Springfield if it's going to cut into their bottom line. And that's true in every damn state in the country. That's true of national politics. That's true of everything. They don't tell you things that are going to piss you off and make you stop buying from their advertisers.
That's what bugs me about this. And I know there's been other stuff in Illinois, and that's why I'm being kind of vocal. I did something for the Irreverent Skeptics. Hundreds of people who listened to that, and, I don't know how many is listening to this, but I think this is important that, if anything, you have to sit back and think and realize there's a lot of stuff going on in your capitals, your state capitals, your town halls, your wherever, even your libraries. I mean, Illinois libraries is a taxing body, so there's meetings. I don't know who else, but the schools, they're not passing laws, but they're appropriating money. Look into it. Maybe you need to get down to your library and say, don't do this or do this. Get to your village halls. They're passing ordinances. They're doing things with taxes. Get involved and try to get the word out. And like I said, I don't have the time to go through everything that's going on in Springfield. I kind of watch what's going on in my hometown. It's sketchy at best. How can anything get done? It's that screwed up.
It's that corrupt. That's the problem. I mean, the reason why the media is never going to vote, or they're never going to tell anybody about this, is because they get a shit ton of money from the Democrats and the Republicans. So they're not going to say anything that's going to get them to pull their advertising. The Libertarians don't advertise. Therefore, fuck them. They don't care. Right. They don't care about any of the third parties because the third parties don't advertise. And maybe that's the problem, is that the Libertarians should have been pooling their money and going out there and getting some good TV commercials that people are going to see about this crap. But nope, they don't do that. And, let's be honest, they're not out there doing any of the things they ought to be doing. And
right.
This Chad Grimm guy sounds like kind of an asshole anyway.
Yeah,
so.
I don't like what he's saying, he hasn't won me over. But I think there's just the justice thing that is important in this. And that's why I chose this story. No taxes and, no gun regulations.
Yeah, fuck you, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I could be cool with no taxes, but you know what?
It's great to sit down and go, oh yeah, no taxes at all, and magical fairies will come down and run the government, and
yeah.
It's like, no guys, that's why you guys lose, because you have no fucking grip on reality.
I mean, no income tax. Okay, well, someone's gonna have to make up the difference on that. So no matter what, I'm gonna get taxed one way or another, whether you got a state income tax or not. It's like, don't bullshit me. I know that if you take away one tax, another tax has to be brought in to make up for that.
They have a very unrealistic expectations, and they just think everything's going to magically happen,
right.
Or that people are just going to magically do it all themselves, and we all know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, I'm still critical of the Libertarian, but I don't think they should be totally blocked out of this election. So.
Oh no, I mean, let them run and win or lose on their own merits. They will lose, but, let them at least try. I think anybody should be able to run.
And see, on top of that, I don't understand, at least in Illinois, I mean, Illinois is just so heavy Democrat. The Republicans want to blame the Libertarians because that they're stealing the votes. No, you've got retards running for office. It's not that someone else is stealing votes from you. You're just not putting good candidates up. With the Democrats, they have nothing to worry about. I don't know.
Well, they're going after the Greens for the same damn reason.
That's what they say. But the Greens only pulled like 5% or less of the votes in Illinois.
Yeah, but nobody's putting up any candidates that are worth voting for. Not the Republicans, not the Democrats, not the Libertarians, not the Greens, not the constitutional parties, not the various communist parties, or whatever. Nobody's putting up anybody worth voting for. And I guess I can kind of understand in close races that the Democrats and Republicans would be afraid of third parties because any of the races are so close that just a couple percentage points going to these independent parties, well, that could spell the difference between success and failure. But I don't think these parties are really getting a lot, and as you describe, I don't think that the races are all that close. I think it's just a matter of control. They want to maintain control over who people vote for and who people get to see and what messages they get to hear. And that's not all that surprising, I suppose, but it really is not how the American political system is supposed to work.
I believe the Green, I think, did pull 5% in Illinois, and that's just what they could pull. But, when you're going up against the Democrats, that's a machine. The Democrats are a machine in Illinois. I mean, it's no better than Tammany Hall or, Pendergrass or any of these, it's machine politics in Chicago. And if you're not a Democrat, you're nothing. So the Republicans have no chance or very little chance. It's very rare unless they can get a good candidate in there and perhaps something where everyone is pro-Republican, just put it that way. You might get a Republican getting into the governor's seat. But you know what? That's never going to happen in Illinois. It's Democrat all the way. And, and it's dirty politics. I mean, the Democrats are just as dirty. They're probably more dirty than the Republicans. It's party politics. The Dailies built this edifice of the Democratic Party, and it's not coming down. So blaming the Libertarians, the Republicans blaming the Libertarians it's just a pussy, argument. I mean, the Libertarians, even if they pulled 15%, would still not beat the Democrats. The Democrats are going to pull 50, 60, 70% of the votes. The Republicans, they never get the votes that they think they're going to get. They might get some downstaters, but that's about it. And that's Illinois. That's Illinois politics, right? I'm sure it's probably similar in other states. I mean, and I'm talking Illinois here. That's how fucked up Illinois is anyhow, so.
Yeah, well, that's how fucked up politics is everywhere.
Yeah.
That's just a really good example of why we need a revolution.
Need something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, so let's move on. The religious haven't looked at their own clothing lately, have they? A Russian Orthodox priest, Alexander Chumsky, has declared that the World Cup is a homosexual abomination because players wear a wide variety of brightly colored shoes. Yes, that's right. Because their shoes are different colors, soccer is a gay rainbow and therefore promotes homosexuality. Oh yeah, and Chumsky is offended by some of the hairstyles worn by players too. Apparently, he hasn't looked in the mirror lately.
Well, that explains everything.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, all this is coming from a guy in a scraggly beard wearing a dress, and he has the gall to say that these guys dress weird.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to attack the guy, but you know what?
I do. The guy's an idiot.
Well, that's all I mean, he doesn't get it. I mean, it's one of those, it's that classic, he doesn't get it. What does shoes have anything to do with homosexuality? I don't know. It's that logic thing.
This is religion. There is no logic involved.
I know, but, they claim that there is a logic. So what can it be? I'm trying to understand it. Explain it to me. Mr. I don't know, what would you call him?
Dumbass.
No, that's giving him credit. Yeah. Chumsky? I don't
Yeah.
know. Chumley?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, neon clothing is the in thing these days, okay? I mean, just go to any store and you're going to be confronted with rack after rack of bright colored clothes. That's just the way it is. I mean, my kids hate that shit, but if you go to their high school, it looks like a neon factory exploded. This dude just doesn't understand the real world. Maybe that's kind of the problem. Maybe he's just so insulated from reality, living in this religious fantasy life that he's got, that he's just not aware of the way that the real world actually works. But holy fuck, dude, you're just stupid.
Oh, he's probably just jealous that the Russians couldn't hack it in the World Cup or something like that.
Yeah, well, I don't give shit one about the World Cup, but
I'm just trying to figure out the logic. If he's pissed off at these guys, I mean, what? They played these guys with the neon shoes, and the Russians were too enthralled with it or fell in love with the other team, so they couldn't play. So he's pissed off and thinks it's all a gay conspiracy.
Yeah, that must be it. Well, this guy, he sat down and he says, it's a good thing that the Russians lost right away because now they don't have to play in this gay sport. Dude, you're just an idiot.
It comes down to logic, and there is none. And I'm like, it confuses me. I wonder, what's going on in his head? And this is with like anybody who going through some of this Bible prophecy stuff. I'm like, how are you coming up with this stuff? What is the logic? How are you putting this together? And that's probably it is the answer. I know you'll say it's the answer, but it's like, God, it's got to be more to this. No one can be this stupid.
But the problem is they are. That is the answer. There is no logic to any of this. They don't think about it. They just do this bizarre emotional reaction crap. They don't think about what they're saying. They just open their mouth and a whole bunch of crap comes tumbling out.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's a good thing, again, that they open their mouths. They say the stupid stuff. It exposes them for what they really are. They're narrow-minded bigots.
Yeah, but the people who listen to these fuckers don't realize how stupid they are. We did a story a while back where there was some Muslim imam who was saying that Muslims aren't allowed to go to Mars. Okay. Yeah, sure. Knock yourself out. But nobody sat down and said, God, what the fuck is this dumbass smoking? I shouldn't believe this shit. Nope. They think this guy is just the best thing since sliced cheese.
It's one of those, it forces your hand to your forehead. It's like, what is this guy doing? What is this guy thinking? And he's not. And it's just so amazing that you can equate homosexuality with shoe color. Dude, you're dealing with bigger issues here. You live in Russia. I don't think that's like exactly the most wonderful place to be right now. Don't you have problems there that are more important than the color of your soccer team's shoes?
Well, yeah, but he has no relevance to anything that's going on in the real world. He's got to pull this shit up.
Yeah.
The Russian Orthodox Church means nothing. It's crap. Just like the Catholics, just like the Baptists, just like everything. They're all losing. And so he's got to keep pulling up this extremist crap that only the crazies are going to listen to, for the same reason we say that about the Catholics, the same reason we say that about the Protestants and everybody else. They got to appeal to the crazies. So they pull up the stupid shit.
Yeah. Because those are the only people who listen. I'm quite convinced with that. You say crazy shit, people believes you. You got new followers. I'm just, like I said, I finished up the Illuminati stuff and I finished the show, but I still got material. I might even have to do another add-on show for this, but it's like, you gotta talk crazy, but you gotta do it, it's almost like you gotta do it in a crazy but smart way. That may be it, because, he's attacking the shoe color and the Russians. There is definitely a homophobic presence there in Russia. I don't like homophobic, but, use that term, but it's, they just don't like gay men. And, so he's preying upon that to, again, do the batshit crazy. He knows, it's like, it's a lot like Hitler and his, blame the Jews here. Blame the shoes,
Yeah, that works.
Yeah. So I don't know. But for me, I would love to have someone explain the logic. I know you're going to say there is no logic, but I want to know what is in his head and why he thinks he's right. And the only thing I'm afraid of is I'll have a psychotic episode and try to eat someone's liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti,
Well, why not? These people are. Seriously, these people, the more I listen to the religious, the more I'm concerned that they're having psychotic episodes constantly.
We may be watching a perpetual psychotic episode.
Yeah. Sorry guys, you had a psychotic break with reality. That's why you believe this shit.
Yeah.
But really quickly, I did want to touch on, you keep asking for where's the logic. You're making a false assumption here that there is any logic in these people's lives whatsoever. These people are not sitting down and rationally thinking about the things that they believe. They're not sitting down and thinking, wow, is this thing I'm about to say when I open my mouth and vomit out this crap, is this actually well supported by evidence? Have I thought this through? Do I have a goddamn clue what I'm talking about? Nope. These people are not thinking that way. These people do not react logically, rationally, or with critical thinking. That's not part of their lives. And you gotta get away from thinking that there has to be this internal sense of logic, that there has to be this well thought out argument that they're working through, because there just isn't. That's not how religion works. That's not how liberalism works, but that's a different thing. It's all a bunch of emotional crap where they're just saying things because it makes them feel good and it reinforces these beliefs that they already have. You're not going to get logic out of these people. So you have to stop expecting that there's going to be anything that makes any sense to anybody who has a reasonable, well-intentioned, well-thought-out view of the world around us. That's not religion, and you'll never get that.
True. Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and finish up the news.
Well, speaking of psychotic, GOP candidate who supports abstinence-only learns it doesn't work the hard way. Did I say that right? GOP candidate who supports abstinence-only learns it doesn't work the hard way. Okay. Bill Cassidy is a state congressman from Louisiana and the leading contender challenging the Democratic incumbent Senator Mary Landrieu. In 2013, he co-sponsored the Abstinence-Only Reallocation Act, which awards schools state money for abstinence-only education programs. He is also consistently railed against the ACA's contraceptive mandate. So it will come as no surprise that Cassidy's 17-year-old daughter, unmarried daughter, is pregnant.
Yeah, that's a surprise. But it's no surprise at all that the people who push these puritanical standards, their kids almost never meet those standards. I mean, remember Sarah Palin and her daughter who was pregnant out of wedlock?
Yes.
She was all pushing her, oh, no, you can't have sex out of marriage. Well, tell that to your kid.
Yeah. Yeah, it never fails. I'm going to be like 90% sure that these kids, Sarah Palin's and this kid, did this in spite of their mothers and fathers. I mean, this has to be, Dad, you're a fuckhead. I'm going to go out and, screw around. I would love to be the fly on the wall when he found out his daughter was pregnant. I mean, I just wonder what would have happened in that room. And here's a guy, he's pushed this. Well, he doesn't know, but I think the rest of the world knows that these programs do not work. You're talking teenagers here. They've got things going on in their heads. The priest in the last article has a lot more logic going in his head than a teenager does. It's a screwy world in there. I remember some of that stuff that was going through my head when I was 15, 16, 17, and trying to harness that or to suppress that, it's not going to work. It won't work. I would say the biggest party girls at my school and, some of the schools around, these were all religious. I mean, these were pastors' daughters and ministers' daughters. And then there was the Catholic girls' school who they were party animals and, totally the opposite of the public school kids, And see, even on top of it, this guy, I mean, he's championed these, causes for, abstinence only and, keep, condoms out of the school type stuff. It's gotta be he's living in a fantasy world that teenagers behave. That's not right. Teach them the consequences. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've never had to raise a teenager, but, I know I was one. I was probably a fairly calm teenager, but, it was, if you can impress upon them that, certain behaviors aren't right, use protection, do this, whatever. Just be careful out there. And, maybe this would have turned out different for them, but no. Again, it's the religion trying to show relevance. I mean, I can even see this being a part of showing relevance to religion can do good stuff. And no, it hasn't. And it failed for this guy.
Well, it fails for everybody. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. People like Cassidy, they don't really want abstinence-only sex education. They want no sex education in schools at all. And that's the problem. These people don't want their kids to know anything about sex except that God watches you masturbate. It's no wonder why their kids don't know what causes pregnancy. Yeah. These people just have no information whatsoever. He's not teaching his daughter how to be responsible. He doesn't want the schools to teach his daughter how to be responsible. And so his daughter goes out and just does what people do, what biology causes people to go out and do, and shit, look what happens. Yeah. And I'm sure that he isn't down on his daughter, just like Sarah Palin wasn't out there disowning her daughter. You know, he's not out there going, you're not living by my Christian values, therefore I'm throwing you out of the house. He's not doing that. I'm sure he thinks this is just fucking great. You know, I mean, it can make him look bad politically, but he doesn't care because he's got a lot of money and he can take care of her.
Yeah.
But the other thing is liberals are trying to turn this into a rich white guy thing. And it's not. Because, let's be honest, there's a lot of highly religious black people out there who push abstinence-only too.
Yeah.
So, it's not a racial thing. It's not a wealth thing. It's a religious thing. And let's be honest, we all think religion is just freaking stupid to begin with.
Right. Yeah, it could be just a control thing. You know, it is condoned in the Bible. I wonder when he gets his 50 silver shekels for her. You know, this idea, I think it has to do with trying to control people, controlling what they think, all this kind of stuff. Apparently he doesn't understand teenagers. You try to control a teenager, that's like the worst thing you could probably try to do. It doesn't work.
You can. You absolutely can. But that's something really for the main event. So we should probably move on to that.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
This is the main event.
Since we just talked about this in our last story, I thought it would be interesting to have an exchange about what conservatives really think about sex education. No, not the religious retards, not the neocons, but people who are actually pro-responsibility and pro-reality. So, this is our take on sex education in America and why we're really nothing like either the religious right or the liberal left. So anyway, what were you saying? We'll just continue there.
Well, what was I trying to say exactly? But it was like with the last story, this is a guy, he seems to think you can control people, that you can control their bodily urges, their functions, you know, the idea that you can, through Bible or whatever, that you could overcome these inner natural urges that a teenager has, you know, I mean.
And you can. You can absolutely do that. But it's not something you can just say, I'm going to give you this verse out of the Bible and magically you're going to listen and do what I want you to do.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. You have to actually raise them to think critically and intelligently and act responsibly and all the rest of that. And if you can do that, if you can raise them right, then yes, they are going to do the right thing. They're going to do what they've been raised to do. My kids do. You know, my kids aren't out there fucking up a storm and all the rest of that. I didn't when I was that age. Sure, I had the impulses. Everybody does. But I was responsible enough not to act on those impulses and just run around with my pants down. Yeah. There are people who do, but there's a shit ton of people who don't. Yeah. And, you know, you can't say, nobody will ever do that. Well, obviously people will do that. I'm an example. My kids are an example. There are examples everywhere. It's the people who aren't raised that way, who are told, go do whatever you want to do. You know, like when you talk to liberals, to go the other way. When I talk to them about this, a lot of them are really anti-abstinence. They don't want it even mentioned in education, alright? They want to spend all their time putting condoms on cucumbers and telling kids how not to become pregnant. They don't want to mention the risks of engaging in sex at all, which I think is important. Give the kids all the facts. Don't assume they're just going to not listen. Say, hey, here's the reality behind it. Here's the potential rewards. Here's the potential risks. We're going to tell you both. And then you can make an educated decision along the way. The religious fucks, they don't want education. The liberal fucks, they don't want education. Nobody wants to educate these kids. They just want to push an agenda.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, and those are the two extremes. I mean, when I went through the sex education, this would be in the 70s, late 70s. Now, we didn't get the condom on a cucumber thing, but we got the anatomy. We got all that kind of stuff. And, what else what we get? They talked about STDs. They talked about, at the time, the only two was gonorrhea and syphilis. We didn't have chlamydia or HIV.
Well, you did, but they just didn't talk about it.
Yeah, the two big ones was gonorrhea and syphilis. Those were the two ones you had to worry about at the time. And that's what we were taught. So, none of the other stuff that goes, the herpes and, cause those actually hit really hard in the 80s. So I was 70s. So we didn't have that yet. It was probably there, but it was always, things like, keep yourself clean, all that kind of stuff. And there was nothing about condoms or anything like that in there, but they did talk about responsibility. That this is how babies are made. You do this, you're going to have the responsibility of a child. But that's about the limit that it went. Now, I did play, just once, just the one time, it'd be the one girlfriend, that was it. And fortunately nothing happened out of that, so, it put the kibosh on the playing, so, cause it really was a scare. And I realized that, I could fuck up my life, I could fuck her life up. And, so we calmed that down, and of course shortly after that we also split up, so it was whatever. That's personal stuff, going to the gory details. But it really was, it rammed home the idea that I was gonna be a dad, and the responsibility of that. And that's what is important, that when you do this, when you perform this act, there's a lot of stuff writing on it, and you have to make sure that you understand it. I'm not saying scare the kids. Explain to them that, a child is a big responsibility. This is another human life. You are morally and ethically and financially responsible for the welfare of this child. That means, the midnight feedings, the getting them into schools. How are you going to do that as a 17-year-old or 18-year-old?
But that's really the problem, is you've got a lot of people coming out of these liberal homes where nobody's ever taught them responsibility. You don't actually have to deal with it. You fuck up. Oh, well, mommy and daddy are going to pay for it. They don't have to worry about it. Or the government will come and pay for it. It's not your problem, You do something wrong, you make a mistake, you screw up your life. Oh, well, there's welfare, there's all these child programs, there's all this stuff that they'll just hand out to you for free, and you never have to worry about it, and you never have to go, oh crap, I made a goddamn mistake. There's no such thing as mistakes in liberal theology, which is really kind of what it is.
And I knew a lot of kids who did get in trouble. Of course, it was the guys never seemed to get in trouble. It was always the girls. It was kind of a bullshit thing. It's like the guys in the actually, there wasn't a lot of the high-fiving in the locker room type stuff, but you knew who was doing what. And again, we're talking about the late 70s, so I think a lot of people were still trying to figure out how to even deal with the problem. So, getting into the 80s, and, you get the new diseases coming up, or at least the diseases are now important, and of course, then you get the Reagan years, where it does turn into this, where the religion starts sticking their nose into it. I don't think the religious even cared in the 70s. There was never a word about it. It was only in the 80s when they started saying, but I think it was because they started kicking up sex education, and some of the southern schools started having problems with parents not wanting their kids to go through the sex education in school. That's where then you get the abstinence programs, and these people, I know just say no was drugs, but there was that philosophy, just say no, to sex, everything would be fine. But, they didn't want to deal with the actual problem, or deal with the kids themselves. It was always something else wrong. They weren't getting enough religion, or whatever it was. So, I learned it the hard way, that it is, the responsibility. And then I was the oldest of 5 boys, and the youngest was born when I was 17. So actually, I was raising my little brother, because my dad had passed away. I was helping Ma. When I was home, I'd help Ma out, take care of the little brother and stuff like that. And then when my dad passed away, tried to be the father figure. And I couldn't get through to the kid. He was a good kid and all, but it was just, I was too strict.
Oh, I don't buy into too strict at all. I think people are not strict enough. These are the people who plop the kid down in front of the TV to be their educator, who think that the schools are going to raise them and teach them how to be moral, how to have decent views, they think the schools are going to do everything. And the parents are too damn busy getting drunk and sitting on the couch and watching Oprah and all this other bullshit. Sorry, that's not the way parenting works. Parenting starts from day one. When the kid pops out, you start teaching that kid how to act, how to behave, what to believe, etc. And I know there's a lot of atheists out there who get really pissed off and say, oh, you can't dare indoctrinate the kid. But we've kind of talked about this before, where everything that you do is indoctrinating. Everything. You indoctrinate them into language. You indoctrinate them into everything. So the idea that you can't indoctrinate your kids is ridiculous because you can't stop from indoctrinating your kids. It's kind of part of raising your kids. If you don't indoctrinate them, you're not raising them.
Yeah. I don't know. I did something wrong there. Again, that's all personal stuff. I shouldn't be going into that too detail, but there has to be a responsibility. You gotta act responsibly. I think that, and that coupled with, the proper protections, I think is fine.
But I don't agree with that either. It's like saying, hey kid, here's the keys to the car. Go out and drive like a maniac, but make sure you wear your seatbelt. If the kid is not qualified or the kid is not ready to drive that car, the kid should not be in that car. And whether the biological influences are there or not, most kids are just not psychologically, emotionally, or physically prepared, and certainly not financially prepared for the potential consequences of sex. We need to let them know that, and we need to do what we can to convince them to wait until it's the proper time. Whether or not that's marriage, that's something else. There's going to become a time when they are emotionally, physically, and psychologically ready for it, and that's great. Then go to town, do it responsibly, take a condom, whatever. But until that point, you don't throw them the keys to that car. You don't say, hey, just go do what you're going to do because I know that's what you want to do. Our job as parents is to raise this child to make the right choices, not to just say, well, fuck it, go do what you want to do. That's not the way parenting ought to work.
True. I'm actually also very confused about some stuff on this subject too, so I'm kind of going to stop there. I'm going to stop there.
Okay. Well, when I was in school, and you gotta remember I went to a super religious school, and it was part of their rules that if you got pregnant, you got your ass kicked out of school. And there was one girl named Sonia who did, and of course they let her stay because her parents had money and were buying things for the school. Yeah. So, we're not surprised there.
Special dispensation. Yeah,
exactly. It was, special dispensation, I think they bought like a $5 million gymnasium or something. Yeah. So, they just bought their way around the rules. But the problem is that there's a lot of people out there who they're utterly clueless about this stuff. I used to know this girl that I met online back when I was moderator on an Atheism IRC channel, and she was one of the people that used to hang out there. And she was probably like 20 years younger than I was. But, she was having some real personal problems, and I was talking to her about it. And she says that in the first 2 years that she was sexually active, she had 17 partners. And it's like, holy fuck. Didn't anybody tell you that's a bad idea? Has nobody educated you at all? But that's kind of like the assumption that the liberals make, that this is how kids are all going to act. So let's encourage them all to act that way,
Yeah. Yeah. You can't just, here's a condom and go into the world. That doesn't work at all. That's being more irresponsible than you're dealing with a lot here. This is not just about getting that girl into bed. Right. There's a lot more writing on this. And I don't want to be a buzzkill on this, but it is, there is some responsibilities, and there's responsibilities on both parties, and you have to realize that there are consequences. Besides the, having a baby, there are the diseases, and if you decide not to have the child, then there's again those responsibilities, and these are things you got to realize.
But these are things we're not really teaching them. That's really the problem. We need to discuss the potential consequences of actions. We need to discuss pregnancy, but not only that, the risks of teenage pregnancy, the lifetime of financial care for children, how out-of-wedlock pregnancy can completely ruin your life, destroy your earning potential, and limit the pool of potential mates in the future. They'll give people little plastic dolls to treat like kids, but kids are not pets. They're not something you can play with when you want and then just leave them behind when you're busy. Your life is over when you have that kid, all right? You're going to miss out on all those things in high school and college, all the fun, if you want to call running around getting drunk, being an asshole fun, but you're going to miss out on a lot of that stuff. Or you're going to be a really shitty parent if you just throw away the kid and go do that stuff. These are things we need to talk about. We need to tell kids that not only are there mistakes that can fuck up their lives, there are mistakes that can completely ruin their lives, and there are mistakes that once done can absolutely never, ever, ever be undone. That's what teenage pregnancy is. That's what all of these mistakes are. You get AIDS? Fuck it, you're dead. Alright? Might take you a while. You might hope for a cure, but you're probably dead. That's not something that's worth doing. I don't care how good it feels. It really doesn't make a damn bit of difference.
Yeah. I mean, realizing that there are some pretty screwed up people who think, I've seen this. It's usually in small towns. These high school girls are trying to figure out how to get out of that town. The best way for them to do it is find some guy, get pregnant. Somehow that solves their problem. They get forced to marry or whatever the deal is, and they can move out of the town, get a, whatever. It doesn't really work that way. A lot of them just get dumped and be left there so they're single with a kid.
Yeah, but those people are all screwed up to begin with. That's not just that situation. They were fucked up living where they were and being raised the way they were.
Right. Yeah. But there's that. I think the real problem does center around that nobody, you just sit down and say, there's a responsibility. These are the risks. These are good, the bad. Here's the risks. Here's the rewards.
But there are a couple problems with that. First off, we know that teenagers think they're indestructible. And I really do think that it's our job as parents and as educators to teach them otherwise. All right? We might see fewer deaths and injuries due to stupid behavior if we did. We got kids out there who are idolizing Jackass and all this other nonsensical bullshit, doing all these extreme sports stupidity and getting killed and getting paralyzed and all the rest of that crap because they think nothing will ever happen to them. And you need to let them know that they're not immune from stupid. And while earlier you said that you didn't want to scare kids, there was a time when kids in driver's education courses had to sit through films like Death on the Highway and The Last Date, films that were gory and gross and that really showed the consequences of bad driving. And they were meant to scare kids. And I think that to some degree at least they worked. There are inherent risks at play, and people need to know how to minimize those risks or not engage in that risky behavior at all. That might be one way that we should go, and I know you're going to get a lot of parents bitching and whining and moaning about, oh no, how horrible that their kids might actually have to sit through something that disturbs them so that their entire life is not a happy, fun, joy ball of happiness every second of the day. Well, fuck you. The parents aren't doing their job parenting. They've passed it off to the schools. Maybe the schools have to be doing this stuff. This is stuff that parents should be doing on their own. Kids should not need sex education in school. They shouldn't need it. This should all be done at home by the parents. And it's not. And some of it's religion, I'm firmly convinced that sex education needs to be comprehensive and entirely secular. There should be no, God doesn't want you to do this nonsense. There shouldn't be guilt involved. But that shouldn't be a license to go wild either. I mean, having a bowl of condoms on the corner of the teacher's desk, that sends as much of a bad message as telling people they're going to burn as hell because they have lustful thoughts. That kind of stuff is stupid.
Yeah. I guess even trusting the kids, trusting your kids to know that, because over the years, I mean, I'm making an assumption that over the years you've given them enough to understand good and bad, what's right and wrong, stuff like that. And this is just another reinforcement when it comes time for the sex talk. I don't know if that's happened or is going to happen, but you're going to apply what you've already applied, teaching them the right things, what's right and wrong in the world, and build upon that you've got some more responsibilities. You're getting older, and that's always a thing. I keep hearing, I've never really, I guess maybe I have, but I don't know if I ever did it right, but you know what? I keep hearing about, there's that give and take, give the kid some trust, trust the kid.
But that only works if they earn the trust. That's one thing, and I hate to keep going back and calling liberals out on this, but liberals seem to think that people ought to be trusted just because they exist. Trust is earned. Trust is something that people earn, and when you lose that trust, when you do something that violates that trust, you should not just automatically have that trust back. That's something that you have to earn back. Liberals don't seem to get that. And I'm sorry to liberals who don't act that way. I really am. I'm trying not to generalize, but I see that a lot where they say, hey, everybody needs to be trusted. Everyone needs to be respected. Everybody needs to be X, Y, and Z. Nope. Those are things you need to get off your ass and you need to earn and you need to maintain.
True. I was always trying to do that. My little brother can go so far, stay in here. And as he learns to do the right thing, okay, here, you can do more. You can keep doing more. Keep pushing it out. If he screws up, you pull it back. There have been a few times where I've had to tell him, you shouldn't have done that. And I won't tell Mom, but, you need to back off or you need to do something. I mean, stuff like that. But, it's like you try to reinforce the good, accentuate the bad, and try to explain to him why that was wrong, why doing this was wrong. And building upon that as he got older and older and older. He did turn out to be a good kid. I don't know if there was any real problems. It didn't seem to be. There's no father with a shotgun at my door trying to find Jason to force him to get married. But, so I think he might have done all right. So.
Yeah, but that's really the problem is that there are so many kids out there, and this goes beyond sex education in schools, so. But there are so many kids out there right now who are getting the wrong information or the wrong message from their home life because the American family has gotten so completely fucked up. What are these kids supposed to do when dad is gone or don't even know who the fuck dad was to begin with, and they're growing up with mom bringing home a new guy to fuck every other week. And then, mom isn't telling them anything because mom's too busy fucking passed out on the couch drunk. And, they're not teaching them anything. They're not teaching them any kind of good moral behavior or.
Well, even let's get to something normal. Dad works a 12-hour shift. Ma has to work a 8-hour shift to make ends meet. They're never home. The kid gets home. He's left to the TV or to himself. And the buddies come over and says, hey, look at that little girl over there. Let's attack her or go after her. Nothing to supervise. Nothing to say. If that's the case, the kid's got no supervision. He's running wild with his friends. The friends say he wants to be one of the guys. So let's do that or, do something, wrong. Probably the same difference. Whether you got the drunk ma who fucks and daddy run off wherever, the kid is not getting the right information.
And I don't even necessarily buy that because just having two parents in the household is going to pass on certain lessons to the children where having one parent in the household or never having another parent in the household is going to teach them other lessons. Even if it's unintentional, even if it's indirect, they're going to learn things about how to treat people by just observing their parents in their natural habitat. So that's a problem too, but that's something that's hard to fix today anyway.
You might get it on the weekends when dad visits, dad takes him for the weekend for visitation, they might get a little bit here and there, but they're not getting it. It's not being reinforced either. And then the thing becomes almost like the liberals would say, well, that's just and then blame it on something else. Of course they're not big on family or they don't pull that, the family, the nuclear family crap. It's more like, I don't know, bad influence, whatever the deal is. It's not the kid's fault. It's just that the kid's not getting the right information at the right time, in the right way, from the right people.
Right. But whether it's the kid's fault or not, the kid has to live with the consequences. And we see so many places where the parents just completely and totally fail their children. And the liberals don't want to point at the parents. They want to go, oh, the system. It's the system. It's society. Society's to blame. No, it's not. Ultimately, the way your kid turns out is your fault. It's your responsibility. And yeah, if there's something mentally wrong with your kid that you had no way of controlling or dealing with, all right, I might give you some leeway. But by and large, if your kid turns out to be a fucked up asshole who screws up their lives, that's on you. That's not on your kid. Sure, they made all these actions that were stupid, but you didn't teach them well. You didn't teach them how they should act. That's mostly the problem. And,
Yeah. Liberals just don't like that.
Yeah. I don't think it necessarily has to be a drunk mother, absent father. I mean, it could be, really hardworking people, but they just can't spend the time with the kids. That can't be good. There's things like, I'm just trying to imagine other situations, but certainly, again, it's kind of weird because, all our neighbors, they always compared their kids to the Bowler Boys. Why can't you be like the Bowler Boys? They're good kids. It's like, what? We were good kids. And on occasion, here, it is like the neighbor kids saying, I just hate hearing that. They always kept saying it. What am I doing wrong? The kids didn't understand what they were doing wrong. I don't think the parents even understood that, didn't even know how to raise their kids, so these were stable families, I guess, or I would say fairly stable families in the neighborhood. It never saw any type of in the yard, the wife kicking the husband out of the house type stuff. It was pretty quiet. So, but then that doesn't mean stuff was going behind the doors. But, they're professionals. Didn't really seem that bad, but a lot of the kids in the neighborhood kind of turned messed up a little bit. There's just a few that, they went on to college, got decent jobs, so on. But there were others that they didn't turn out too well. But I think some of them really had real mental issues, like actual mental issues. Others had issues. I won't go into those details because I don't want to, because some of them, it's not so bad, but it's just they were just weird. Let's leave it at that. But these were families that had really weird ones, were ones where the family was kind of messed up, where there was no mother passed away type stuff. And it was up to the father to raise the boys. But still, when I was growing up, there was always stuff about responsibility and doing the right thing, doing, the moral. It wasn't, religious moral. It was just, don't do that, do this type stuff. It really wasn't thinking about it. It wasn't being taught morals at the end of a ruler. It was, you do this, and my dad would always, looking at the TV, he said, you can't be doing that. That ain't right, type of stuff at the TV. So you kind of pick up, what they're doing on the TV isn't good, so punching somebody is bad.
Yeah.
Type of things. But there was always that reinforcement and, teaching, and you keep that going, moving on as the kids get older, they're learning, they're understanding stuff. Keep teaching them, reinforce what you've taught them. You're introducing new stuff now that they're becoming sexually active or they're going off to college. Give them the right tools to understand what's going on, and I think everyone will turn out right. If condoms are available, I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to anything. You can't tell them no. You can't tell a teenager no.
Sure you can.
Well,
but you can't. You can't just turn up one day and say, oh yeah, by the way, no. You need to be teaching them this shit since the day they're fucking born.
Right.
And that's the problem with all these goddamn parents, is that they never set the groundwork. They never teach their kids anything, and then when they show up one day and say, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you 10 years ago when I should have, don't do that, and they're surprised when the kids just don't listen. Well, fucker, you've already failed your kids by this point in time. We should put a bullet in your goddamn head, you stupid moron.
Yeah.
You have no business having a kid at all.
Right. Telling a kid no. I agree with that. But, it is when they start getting, and they become more independent and stuff like that, you start telling them no. You just can't say no. You gotta say no because. But, you can't just say no as far as, no sex. Why? You just can't. You just can't leave it like that. On the same token, on the other side, have all the sex you want. Don't worry about it. Here, just use this protection or take these pills and stuff like that and everything's okay. Why?
Right.
Why? Because it's okay. It's natural.
Oh, I hate parents like that. The guys who go, oh, well, come and have sex in my house and I'll give you condoms and all the rest of the stuff because what the fuck, you're going to do it anyway. And the people who go, hey, my underage kid, let's just have a party and I'll buy all the beer because I'm trying to be the cool mom or the cool dad. That's not how you raise a fucking kid. You people need to be out castrated or whatever, because holy shit, you people are doing it about as wrong as you fucking can.
Yeah. You gotta fill in the gaps. There's a gap between saying no to the kid, telling the kid no, you can't have sex, and you can have all the sex you want. it's not that clear cut. I mean, or that's not black and white. You gotta fill in the gap between that. No, don't have sex because of this, but you might want to, or maybe at some point you do fall in love and want to get married. Make sure that the gap between abstinence and free love is filled, and you'll be all right. That's what I believe. You just can't tell a kid no. You could all say, but if the kid doesn't know why you're saying no, what good is it doing?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Just to kind of finish this up, let's be honest, there needs to be a balance between the religious sex education and the liberal sex education. One teaches never to do it under any circumstances. The other teaches to do it all the time. Neither is a rational or responsible way of handling the situation. You know, we owe it to our kids to teach them the right way. And I know that's hard in this country where liberalization has generally fucked up our population, where parents can't teach their kids the right way because parents were never taught by their own parents the right way. But we gotta do something. The whole world is just fucked up, and U.S. is leading the charge into liberal stupidity land. We can't be doing this shit where we're just teaching kids to keep repeating the same mistakes that their parents made. We owe it to our kids to make them better than we were, to make them more responsible, to make them more intelligent and rational, to make them better educated so that they know more, so that they can go on and have better lives than we did. This whole idea that parents and teachers, etc., are just going to throw up their hands and go, what the fuck, they're going to do it anyway. Let's just ignore it and kind of throw these little platitudes at them. That really doesn't make any sense. I think it's really kind of stupid, and it's down the road that liberalism leads. And I don't think that the religious fucktards are any better. There's got to be a better middle ground, and I think I'll just go ahead and leave it at that.
Right.
That finishes up the show for the week. Hopefully you had a good time. Let us know if you did. Let us know if you didn't. Let us know either way. You can contact us through email by commenting on the show on YouTube, Google+, Facebook, or Twitter. And you can hear the show either on our very own site, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Player FM. We'll be back pretty soon. Try not to miss us too much. So until next time, take care.
Good night, everyone.
You've been listening to the Bitchspot Report podcast with your hosts, Cephas and Mike. You can follow us on Twitter respectively at Bitchspot1 or at JDRipper1962. Please visit our website at report.jdragononline.com. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/The Bitchspot Report. We're also on Google+, iTunes, and YouTube. Those links are at our website. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach us via email at report@jdragononline.com. Comments, ideas, and suggestions are always welcome. We'll be back next week with another fun and fact-filled episode. Please tune in again.